talking about revving it to 11,000 RPM. It's going to be insane to see this at 11,000 RPM. So welcome back to another video. We are again back at EFI Parts. I should be getting paid staff wages here, but anyway, we're over at EFI Parts, and today we have Matt, aka Mr. Boosts, Europe's fastest D Series Civic, with a whole new setup on the dyno, getting prepared for this year's season of racing, hoping to get his record even more lower. A load of new changes, a massively new bigger turbo. The spec on this thing is insane. Big fingers crossed. I hope it all goes to plan because there's a lot riding on it. So let's get in and let's see what happens.
D16 Z6.
D16, new to Hondas. What size is it?
1.6.
1.6, 8 valve.
16 valve.
16 valve.
Single cam.
Single cam,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Full tartan sleeved and concreted block now. Custom alloy rods and custom pistons. Custom made for me for this.
I've seen pictures where you have your name engraved on them and all that, yeah.
We've changed the cam and put a Bad Guys race cam in it. Turbo wise, we've now gone up to a Garrett G45 1350.
Big turbo.
Yeah.
big turbo.
So we're now on a mechanical pump rather than a big electric. Full fuel tech, everything.
Gearbox.
PPG dog box.
Okay.
4-speed.
Best time?
I've done 919 at 159.
With a 45, we're going to push so much air. You've got to be up to 4 digits. Possibly.
Yeah. I would like to see 1,000 horsepower, but I'm not really too bothered about power figures.
No, it's more to get down the track and get the numbers.
My mile an hour is a more important thing.
Yeah.
Than the power figure, and obviously the ET is more important than the mile an hour.
So what's the backstory with the car? How's it come about?
I've had the car now since August 2006. It's completely original, absolutely box standard when I got it. I paid £500 for the car.
Wow. Everyone's going to ask, why not go K-swap? That's the quick, that's the easy.
Because everyone else has.
Is that the reason why?
Yeah.
So this is the fastest D Series in Europe.
Yeah.
And what's the D Series world record?
8.0.
8.0.
Yeah.
So you got a big hurdle to that. And what power does that run?
We think about 1100.
Oh right, so you should be near the power then.
Okay. So tell me what I need to know then. We didn't have an E-gate last time, did we?
No. And mechanical pump.
Yeah. And this is set up already?
I hope so.
I hope so, mate. Yeah.
I've calibrated it
to
0 and 100%. So you should just be able to say 30 psi. And it should make 30 psi.
That's what everybody thinks. now I've tuned two of these, and in both cases I had to set the pin loop up myself.
Right.
Because the boost was just all over the shop, and so it took a while to dial it in.
Right.
If we're going to have a problem, it's going to be setting that up.
That was my thought. To be
Yeah.
fair. If there's any issues, it's going to be with that. But just have to try. I haven't been able to set the fuel pressure because we can't get it running long enough. It runs like shit, like just way too much.
Yeah,
fuel.
Laura showed me a video. They didn't sound very nice. On pump fuel, this will never run nice.
Yes, well that's what it's on now. So,
but we'll see if we can at least get the thing to idle.
yeah, I'm not expecting it to run and drive and rev up or anything cleanly on pump fuel.
Yeah, it's the pretty snotty things. So what's your objective then, Matt? What are we looking to do today?
Make it work.
Everything, just make it all fun.
Yeah.
We didn't have a very good day yesterday. No. So let's hope that this changes that. Still 80. That's good. That's
The strips are in it.
Well, try that. That literally hasn't even come down a pound. That's a bit.
This is why they were struggling.
It takes a lot.
Well,
they do take a lot of adjustment, them tall ones anyway.
This is going to be a little bit different process for Chris because it is basically a blank canvas and a full new setup. So what you're watching there is you're watching basically the very high end and the high fuel demanding drag cars use now what's called a mechanical pump. So that is driven off the end of the cam. Safety factor is if you start losing voltage, your pump's never going to lose voltage, so you're never going to start going lean, because at the end of the day, as long as the engine's running, it's rotating the mechanical pump, so it's always got fuel. So what they're doing is they're basically priming the system with a drill, setting the base fuel pressure, and it's just basically that just makes life easier later down the line for when Chris is mapping it. Let's see what the next step is. Fingers crossed we'll get it fired up shortly.
Oh, are you holding that full throttle?
Yeah.
It shuts it off at over 70%.
Okay.
trying to set up all the background settings on the ECU. It's got a PDM. PDM is basically a fancy fuse box, which is all electronically controlled through the laptop. What we're finding now is some of the fuse ratings on the PDM have not been set. So when we've been cranking, it's been cutting the power to the injectors, so it just keeps blowing. So we're just going through the PDM now to set up all the levels on that to make sure all the fuse blow levels are correct. And then we've had it running for 10 seconds, but that's what we're on to now. And then I think Chrissy's kind of at the point now we can get it to idle and we can start getting it onto the dyno, strapped down, ready to make some numbers. So Chris has done all he can with the low down settings as far as he's aware, because what we're trying to do is, as I've said in previous videos, if you followed this series, we start up on petrol and then we switch to whatever race fuel it is. But with this being such a giant turbo and cams and all the other bits and pieces, getting to the point where everything's struggling with pump fuel. So now they're literally pulling the spark plugs out, putting some new ones in, and then we're going to switch over to the methanol because he's switching from C85, which he was on last year, and he is going to the methanol. So let's go and see that. I guess get some methanol in there, and let's start, fingers crossed, it'll all go to plan and it'll clean up. So this is the methanol we're using. So what I'm being told is it didn't actually come blue. They've had to put like an additive into it. So again, learning, if you put straight kind of like production industrial methanol in it, it doesn't have any oil lubricants in it, so it would wear pumps, wear injectors. So when you buy it like this, you had to add, I think it was 1 mil to 1 litre of like an oil additive to make it so it can work. Very interesting. So yeah, we're going to put this in now. This is a longer process than normal. The reason for that is basically the methanol. What Chris has to do is he has to do some driving up to a certain RPM, data log it, change what he can whilst he's doing it, then go back and look at the data. The reason being is he can't just put it on the mad load straight away. A, because it's a concrete block, so he can get very, very hot. And B, as much as he's got a gas mask on, technically, it's not a nice environment to be there. So I feel he's taking it in slow steps just to go through, working up on it, and taking his time. Sounds like he's back on it again. Let's go in. So far so good. We've just done a pull at I want to say gate pressure, but it's not. It's the new fancy e-gate, so it's all electronically controlled, so there's no technical spring in there. So we've just done a pull at a bar of boost, but we only went to 7,000 RPM. I think, like I say previously, Chrissy's just taking it in slow steps to get it right. I don't know what power it made then because obviously it didn't rev out. But I think from overhearing the conversation, last year the engine revved to 10,000 RPM. I think with the bigger turbo, they're talking about revving it to 11,000 RPM. I've just heard this thing do 7,000 RPM, and I can not explain how much you cringe when you hear this thing come up on power. So at 11,000 RPM, oh, it's going to be insane. Let's crack on, because it's looking good so far. So we've moved it up now to 8,500. Chris has turned the boost down, I think, to 10 psi. I think that's what we've just seen. What is mad though is this thing is going to go from like no power whatsoever, because like I say, it's obviously a small displacement engine with a massive turbo, so it's going to take a lot of energy to get that turbo to go, but it's just going to go wild. It's literally going to go straight up as soon as it starts coming onto the flipping boost, right up in the revs, because we don't know what the power band on the cams is as yet. It's going to be insane to see this at 10,000-11,000 RPM, and I'm interested to see where the power band is and what power it makes. As we're trying to rev the engine above 7, 8, at 9 psi, the coils are struggling a little bit. We don't know if that's plugged, the coils are not so good. I don't know enough about these Honda coils that they're running, whether they're any good on methanol. Chris doesn't know, but they've just put another set of coils in and we're seeing the same issue where it's spluttering. It basically won't rev clean. So I don't know what the fix is, I don't know what they're going to do, I don't know if they've closed the gap on the plugs. Let's have a look.
We try adjusting it down again.
Apparently there's 44 psi now, 45 psi in the system now, which I suppose it could be. But it was weird that it wouldn't let us turn it down.
Everyone's been talking, trying to resolve the issue and trying to discuss what they think the issue could be. So technically, at 9 psi, around 8,000 RPM, these coils, as anyone who knows Hondas, technically should be all right. They shouldn't be blowing out. That's why we're guessing it could have been that. We don't really think it could be. Fuel pressure that is seen from the mechanical pump is exceeding the limits of the injectors. So again, guessing, trying to diagnose, are we seeing this too much pressure on top of the injector where it's struggling to open? So I think they're trying to play with the regulator now to see whether they can adjust it, turn it down. I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know if that's going to solve it, but with fault finding, potentially, hopefully, we can carry on.
Isn't it?
Bloody hellfire.
The only thing I can think to do is to have the regulator in bits, to see if we can see if something's stuck or something in, or maybe there's a bit of debris stuck in the fucking, because the return hole's only like 2 millimeters.
Unfortunately, we've had to call it a day. Basically, we can't sort this fuel regulator issue out. Basically, what Chris is seeing, he's seeing 120 psi of fuel on idle, and it will not go down, it will not adjust, to the point of when he's revving it, he's seeing 354 psi of fuel pressure, and the maximum on the data sheet for the injectors, which are the fuel tech ones, is 150 psi. Hence, we're thinking that's what the misfire is. There's a few days in between now and an event. They're going to rush around to see if they can fix it. But as for today, I hope it all turns out, and I hope they can get to door slammers, and I hope they can make a pass. So, Mr. Boost is in the starting lanes. So, following on from the dyno video, basically they found what the fuel issue was, and they found what the misfire was, which is a valve flow issue. They seem to have fixed everything, and they finally got down to the event and the running. The wedding went ahead, that went all plain and smooth. Now we're for the main event, which is the weekend after door slammers. So now it's a test day just before main event. Matt's going out, fingers crossed it'll go down and where it needs to be, and they can run at main event and get some numbers. At least he's made a little bit of a pass. I'm sure he'll get better in the future. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care, guys, and I'll see everyone on the next video.